If you've never lived in a house where silence feels dangerous, then this story might sound small to you. But if you have, you'll understand exactly why something as stupid as a sandwich can mean everything. I grew up in a house where nothing was ever wrong. We weren't poor. We weren't starving. We weren't the kind of family neighbors whispered about. From the outside, we looked normal. But inside was a completely different world. My dad wasn't physically abusive, and I need to say that first, because people always measure pain in bruises. There were no broken bones, no black eyes, no hospital visits. But there were words. Constant, sharp, cutting words. There was control. There was fear. There was walking on eggshells every single day of your life. My father had to control everything. The money, the mood, the energy in the house. If he was upset, everyone was upset. If he was angry, everyone paid for it. And the worst part, you never knew what would set him off. Sometimes it was something small, a misplaced item, a slightly late dinner, a tone he didn't like, and suddenly the whole house would feel like it was shrinking, like the walls were closing in. Looking back now, I can admit something I couldn't back then. My dad was mentally unwell, seriously unwell, but he refused help, refused therapy, refused to admit anything was wrong. And when someone refuses help, everyone around them ends up paying the price. Back then though, I didn't care about any of that. I wasn't thinking, oh, he needs treatment. I was thinking, I hate living like this. I was a teenager, angry, frustrated, exhausted, and mostly powerless. My mom, she was the strongest person I knew, and also the most tired. She worked a full-time job, but that wasn't enough, because when she came home, she didn't get to rest. She had to cook, clean, take care of us, and most importantly, manage him. That was her real job, managing my father's moods, keeping the peace, preventing explosions before they happened, and one of those peacekeeping tasks, his lunch. Naman, his lunch every single day. His lunch had to be packed exactly how he liked it. No mistakes, no forgetting, because if it wasn't done, the entire house would feel it. His lunch was always the same. To bologna and cheese sandwiches, mayo, mustard, snack cakes, crackers, and a soda. Simple. But in our house, simple didn't mean easy. Sometimes I'd make his lunch for my mom, not because I loved him, not because I respected him, but because I saw her. I saw how tired she was, how much she carried. And even as a teenager, I knew she deserved help. But anger doesn't just disappear, especially when you're forced to swallow it every day. It builds quietly, slowly, until it needs somewhere to go. I remember the night it started. It wasn't dramatic. No big fight. No shouting. Just a normal night. I was in the kitchen making his sandwiches. The same routine. Bread, mayo, mustard. And something inside me just snapped. Not loudly, not violently, just quietly. I picked up the mustard bottle, and without thinking, I drew a dick on his sandwich. I stared at it for a second, packed the lunch, and went to bed. The next day, nothing, no yelling, no complaints, no suspicion. He didn't notice. And for some reason, that made it better. So I did it again, and again, and again every time I made his lunch. There it was, hidden between slices of bread, a stupid little drawing, a quiet little rebellion. It became my secret, my way of fighting back without actually fighting, because fighting back in that house wasn't an option. If you challenged him, things got worse. If you argued, things escalated. If you pushed back, you lost. So I didn't fight. I adapted, and this was mine. It sounds ridiculous, and honestly, it is. But when you have no control over your life, even the smallest act of defiance feels powerful. Years passed, and life didn't magically get better. There were more arguments, more tension, more nights where I stayed in my room just to avoid him. School became my escape. I'd stay longer than I needed to, join things I didn't even care about, anything, just to not go home. Because home didn't feel like home. It felt like a place you survived. My siblings felt it too. We didn't always talk about it, but we all knew. You could see it in how quiet we got when he was around, how careful we were, how we watched his mood like it was the weather. Is it safe today? That was always the question. And my mom, she kept going every single day. I don't know how she did it. I really don't. Because now, as an adult, I realize how much strength it takes to live like that. Eventually, I left. Not dramatically, not with a big goodbye, just slowly. I built a life outside that house, and for the first time, I could breathe. But leaving doesn't erase things. It just gives you distance. The memories stay. The feelings stay. The impact stays. And sometimes they come back in the most random ways. About a year ago, I was sitting with my mom. We were talking about the past, about those years, about everything we went through. And somehow the lunch thing came up. I don't even know why I said it. Maybe I felt safe. Maybe enough time had passed. But I looked at her and said, "You know, when I used to make his sandwiches?" She nodded. And I said, "I used to draw dicks in them with mustard." There was a pause. And then she burst out laughing. Not a small laugh. Not a polite laugh. A real laugh. The kind that comes from deep inside. The kind that carries years of stress, pain, and survival. I just stared at her, a little shocked. And then she said something I'll never forget. "Oh, honey, I used to draw mean stuff in his sandwiches too." And just like that, everything changed. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about the sandwiches. It was about us. Two people living in the same storm, finding our own ways to survive it. It was messy, petty, childish, but it was also human. We didn't have control. We didn't have power. We didn't have a way out. So we created our own small moments of resistance. Not big victories, not dramatic escapes, but small, quiet acts that remind you you're still there. Still thinking, still feeling, still you. People think revenge has to be loud, big, destructive. But sometimes revenge is quiet. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it looks like nothing at all. But to the person living it, it means everything. Do I think it changed my dad? No. Do I think it fixed anything? No. Orama, but it gave me something. A moment of control. A moment of release. A moment of freedom. And when you grow up in a place where freedom doesn't exist, even a moment is enough. Now, when I think back, yes, there's pain. Yes, there's anger. But there's also that memory. A sandwich, a mustard bottle, a quiet act of rebellion. And somehow, it makes me smile because it reminds me that even in the worst situations, there's always a part of you that refuses to disappear. And sometimes that part shows up in the smallest, weirdest ways, like a stupid little drawing, hidden where no one would ever look. And maybe that's not just pettiness. Maybe that's survival. Pause here for emotional music fade out. Extended reflection for length plus emotional depth. If you're listening to this right now and something in this story feels familiar, I want you to understand something. What you went through was real. Even if no one saw it, even if no one believed it, even if there were no bruises to prove it, emotional pain is still pain. Control is still abuse. Silence is still damage. And surviving it, that takes strength. More strength than most people will ever understand. So if your revenge looked small, if your coping mechanisms looked silly, if your survival didn't look heroic, that doesn't make it any less valid, because survival is survival. And sometimes it looks like nothing more than getting through the day or drawing something stupid on a sandwich just to remind yourself you're still there. And that matters more than anything.